Yeah. And we are live.
Sounds like they're racing out on Broadway today, guys. I don't know if you heard the engines, but we're here live. I'm Chris Hewitt from the Hudson Valley Current, and this is Livelihood News, our weekly show. We're here every Friday at 5 p.m. I'm Chris Hewitt, and I'm here with my co-host, Kevius Avery. Hey, Kevius.
Hello.
Today, our guest is Faiz Ali. He is the director of the nonprofit Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness. He's over in Middletown, right at the edge of our membership of current usage. How's it going, Faiz?
It's doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
It was good to catch up with you last weekend and hang out with the kids, do some swimming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I must have went down the slide a million times. Staying fit and active.
And Kevius, he's a great diver. He has one leg. He has his one leg is amputated, so he gets balanced on that diving board. He bounces, perfect dive.
Woo.
Yeah, Chris. You know, it's funny you say that because I think back to the first time I went into the pool after my amputation and where I was and how unsure I was if I could still swim. You know, fast forward to 20 years and this past weekend, hanging out with you and our families together and being so confident and well-rounded because of myself and my strength, but also because of the platform of adaptive sports, which transformed my life and my identity after my amputation.
Yeah. Well, remind us when that was again, Faiz?
I had my leg amputated below the knee 20 years ago in July. 20-year anniversary.
Yeah. And so I was telling Kevius, we've known each other probably over 25 years because our wives were friends in high school. Yes,
our wives were best friends, and I knew Chris when he had a lot of long hair, and I had a lot of long dreads, a lot longer than you, sir.
Oh, I'm early. I'm a baby to the dread world.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So Faiz has always been passionate, Kevius, about helping people, serving people who need some assistance, you know, from the moment I met him. And when he transitioned from taking care of, people who are either elderly or needing assistance, suddenly then he had this very, I think, traumatic amputation happen for anybody. And I was there with him all those years, but it also gets lonely when you have to deal with something like that. So I've been inspired by Faiz, watching his strength and his ability to then get back up and start a nonprofit to inspire other people who can really make change in this world. I've been amazed since I met you, Faiz. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Chris. It's a mission that's very close to my heart, and for one main reason is that there's a cloak of secrecy over the two genres of adaptive sports in the Hudson Valley. Okay, there's two genres of adaptive sports. We have adaptive sports for the Special Olympic athlete, those who are cognitively impaired, which we love, and we have adaptive sports for the physically disabled athlete, those that have no cognition deficits, but merely have a physical disability. Unfortunately, we live in counties and communities where there is no platform for those of us who are physically disabled. And you may say to yourself, well, how do you know that? Because I had my leg amputated 20 years ago, and I went back to the same job as a physical therapist 6 months later, and I worked in that same job for the next 14 years, full-time. But for the first 7 years of that, amputation, post-amputation, no one mentioned adaptive sports to me. I was 24 years old and I was supposed to be washed up. And there's one main reason why, when it comes to Special Olympics sports, you don't need any equipment. Everybody's ambulatory, walk around. When it comes to physically disabled or Paralympic adaptive sports, you need a lot of equipment. You need a lot of knowledge. You need a lot of know-how. I don't care what doctor you are or what physical therapist you are or who you are. You're not just putting a physically disabled kid in a wheelchair and having the knowledge to position them safely and to be able to teach them Paralympic sports without being exposed to that world.
Wow. Here you go.
Kevius has at least 10 good questions for
Oh
you.
my God, dude. I wish we started this off with like a hand clap or like a parade, because I've been reading so much about your mission. And I told this to Chris in privacy a while ago, that I was researching you guys and learning more about you guys. And I say all that to say I'm really excited about today's talk, and it's just overwhelming joy of just hearing of all that you've done. And I want to touch a bit on what you said. You had experience in helping people before you were, I guess, what we will call it, in the position to need help, right? But
Yeah.
you still found a way to help people. Can you describe, I guess, that shift in mentality from I'm helping people as what we would consider able-bodied versus I should be receiving help, but now I still find within myself to give help? Like what pulled you to find that characteristic inside of yourself, and how was that shift for you as a person?
There was never a shift. Well, thank you very much for those kind words, first. But there was never really a shift. I had a very unique experience in the fact that I had my leg amputated below the knee, and I went back to a full-time job, 40 hours a week, teaching people to walk again, as I'm crying in the bathroom and dumping blood out of my liner and dealing with all kind of emotional depression and hiding it from those that love me, right? And hiding it at work. I wanted to give everybody back that Faizul Ali I was before I was my amputation. I was at the prime of my life at 24 years old. I was so happy. Had achieved my childhood dreams of moving to New York, finding a woman that loved me, so I wanted to give everyone back that. So that transition was always, it was an easier transition. I was in that field. I had taught an amputee to walk the year before I was an amputee. So, I was always into that, but adaptive sports transformed everything. The identity. We have to have those platforms, and that platform here.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I noticed as your friend at that time, you had a real desire to be fine. You wanted to show everyone you're fine. You're a strong person. I'm going to make it through. And I was one of the people, of course, that you need to hide that pain from. And I remember it took you some time to get into a wheelchair and feel comfortable in the wheelchair. And earlier I showed Kevius the wheelchair basketball wheelchairs. They're like tanks.
Yeah.
Amazing. So can you talk about that how you over time became comfortable accepting this new life, and then you ran with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. It's great to bring that up because it comes back to the lack of awareness in our community for adaptive sports, the lack of awareness that young, fit amputees around the world play wheelchair sports, right? They told me amputees don't use wheelchairs, right? I didn't know anyone in sports. I'm supposed to walk with this leg, but no matter what anybody tells you, I'm a fit, strong amputee, and my leg always feels like it's cut off and it's jammed inside of my prosthetic, and I'm walking around, right? I'm a very realistic, and I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it always feels like that. I just had a neighbor that told me, you make it look so easy. You make it look so easy. And I had to explain to him that the perception of seeing me walk around, for an able-bodied person, you think that I'm feeling like you. But I'm feeling like my leg is cut off and it's jammed inside of this artificial device, and I'm picking it up, and I'm making my heel strike first, and I'm keeping my posture. But the perception of the amputee is that I'm feeling like you, because I had 24 years of that perception, and that's what I would think. The transition, that was a big transition. That was different because I didn't have a wheelchair at my home. I wasn't discharged from the hospital with a wheelchair. No one told me that I could have a wheelchair. No one told me that I could go to college or see the country, and that there was this whole world of Paralympics that would unite all the disabilities and give me an identity to be around people, because there's two sides. There's the side that Mr. Hewitt lives on that's able-bodied, and there's the side that I live on that I wear a prosthetic leg, yes, but every day I'm brought back to that traumatic event, and the lifestyle changed. It was one night after one of my first wheelchair basketball practices, 7 years after my amputation, where an amputee named Eddie Lopez, who then at the time was an above-knee amputee, he was the top amputee on our team and the top player. And he's retired Navy, disabled from the Navy. And he said, he called me Poppy. He's like, Poppy, he's like, you don't have a wheelchair at home, Poppy? How are you getting around? How are you living? This is in New York City. He had already spent years traveling the country and playing wheelchair basketball. I'm like, no. I'm like, no, I don't need a wheelchair. I don't need a wheelchair. He's like, you got to have a chair for around your house. Next week at practice, he bought me a quickie everyday wheelchair. Not the wheelchair that you're getting to roll around the mall, a quickie everyday wheelchair that an everyday wheelchair users use. I brought it home after my practice, and all these years later, I popped it out on my deck at midnight after driving home from New York City. I had my prosthesis off. I then went to my dryer and got all my clothes and put them on my lap and rolled to where I needed it to go. Right? I needed a midnight snack, so I then rolled into the kitchen without my leg on and without having that constricted feeling on my leg. You know, I'm relaxed, I'm comfortable. There's a lot of moods that come along with amputations and the feeling. I'm not feeling like you. I'm having phantom sensations when I'm sitting next to you. So that transition started that night. I popped my everyday wheelchair that Eddie Lopez gave me to practice. We were in the Queens practicing, and that's where it started. I was getting into wheelchair basketball and having had my eyes opened and seen what really is going on in this network of all these disabilities playing these Paralympic sports. I couldn't believe that it had been hidden from me. I mean, I knew everybody in the community. Chris, 20 years ago, was and he knew everybody. His wonderful wife, she knew everybody, and my wife knew everybody. I knew all these physical therapists, but no one told me that I could find my identity and I could be someone. Experiences and being able to overcome them and feel like I belong. No one told me. So we have to have that. So that transition to the wheelchair is very heartfelt for me.
Beautiful. I think because this conversation is already going so well, we're going to have you as a guest again. We're coming up against our 15-minute mark where we like to do a little station identification. But before we do, because we have about a minute because we started a minute late, what you just said about your neighbor, you make it look so easy kind of thing, reminds me of when white people sometimes say to black people, I don't see color, or even to each other, oh, I'm not racist, I don't see color. And we've been hearing more and more, and Kevius and I talk a lot about race and some uncomfortable conversations with our community members. And I just want to come back after this little break and talk about what's wrong with saying, I don't see color, or saying, you make it look so easy, you know? And so here we are. If you've just joined us, I'm Chris Hewitt. I am the director of the Hudson Valley Current, and this is our weekly show called Livelihood News. We're here every Friday at 5 p.m. and I'm here with my co-host, Kevius Avery. Kevius is an economics student at Bard College, and we are fortunate enough to have him here with us for a full-time position all summer. And we're launching a food security project in Kingston next week. It's very exciting. We can hit on that a little bit. Today, our guest is Faiz Ali. He's the founder and director of Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness out in Middletown. He's a current member, and he's an inspirational leader that is helping teach people and helping enable people to see how powerful and strong they are, even if they might not be able-bodied. So, Kevius, I bet you, again, have a wonderful question.
Yes, you brought up wheelchair basketball. And to my, great surprise and astonishment, is it's a little bit loud. So you're 3-time NWBA champion. And for folks that don't know what that is, it's the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. That's amazing. How did you get involved in that world of wheelchair basketball, and how was that experience for you?
Wow. Thank you for that introduction. Still unreal for me to have that as part of my resume. Coming from this lonely, depressed kid after my amputation to have that. 7 years after my amputation, it took all those 7 years. For those of you that just tuned in, I didn't get introduced to adaptive sports right after my amputation. I've been an amputee for 20 years now. But 7 years after my amputation, I was at Helen Hayes Hospital getting a prosthetic leg adjustment when I saw a sign for wheelchair basketball players. They were running a recreational program. That recreational program was at West Point. And I was invited to come down and play. My prosthetist immediately invited, set it up. It was run by Helen Hayes Hospital, and also the coaches of the New York Rolling Knicks. So I went to West Point. I played all summer. The last practice, the guys that ran it asked me to come to New York City to play with the best player in the city. So on a Friday night, they invited me to Madison Square Garden. They had the floor in Madison Square Garden because the founder of the New York Rolling Knicks was the director of disability services, right? So he was also paralyzed and a teammate. So we went down there. I played until I had pockets of skin coming off my hand. There's a lot of aggressive pushing. And I wasn't good. I was terrible. But my effort and my drive and my passion to want to be the best I could, I got a call the next week and they asked me if they would, if I could be sponsored, and they wanted to sponsor me. And then 2 weeks later, I'm being flown to Virginia Beach and put up in hotels all over the country, learning wheelchair basketball. So that's how I got introduced. And I had no idea about wheelchair basketball and that I was eligible as an amputee, right? I was playing basketball on my prosthesis, right? Even at Helen Hayes Hospital in the year 2000, I got an adaptive sports coordinator a year or two after that. And in the year 2000, I'm having the therapist guard me standing up on my two legs shooting a basketball. No one mentioned it, you know? So that was how I got introduced to it.
And then suddenly Faiz starts coming home, spreading the word. Before you know it, he's like, I need to teach people about these things. I want people to know as soon as they lose a leg, or as they're a young person who was born with a disability, he's an early intervener. He's like, here we are, here's what's available, here's your path to success. And that's why I like that you've added new components. You started with sports, and then you thought fitness is also important, you know? And Kevius brought up something interesting. You want to tell him about the circus?
Yeah. So I run a circus at my school. I've been an aerial artist for about 13 years now. And we tried to get in touch with your team last year, but, with the shifts in COVID, communication lapsed. But I've been, and I told Chris this, I've been in talks of hopefully partnering with your organization to see if we could do fitness using circus apparatus such as fabrics, trapeze, and I want to make it happen. So I have experience working with folks who are blind, folks who are deaf, and I had an experience with a ballerina who had a brain tumor, so she lost all her muscles and she was really tense, and she lost a lot of her cognitive skills, and working with her to rebuild her strength and find her voice in aerial was a really fun experience for me, and one of the highlights of my aerial journey. And when I found out about your organization and the overwhelming amount of bar students who are in my circus that want to contribute to the mission, I felt this is a perfect opportunity and perfect time to see our organizations merge and create something beautiful.
And that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. That's an exhilarating feeling to learn and try something new. And I didn't know that you were prominent with that. That's a lot of upper body strength then. Hey, you're real fitness if you're doing anything on bars and that kind of stuff. That's amazing stuff. But I think
I'm a regular clown, so I stay on the ground with you.
Yeah, right. We'll be spinning around up there. But that sounds amazing.
I'll connect you guys. Kevius always has great ideas. Hi, Dee.
Hi.
So Kevius has amazing ideas. So, you know, just like all the fun we had last weekend, Faz, where we bounced off each other, that's what Kevius and I get to do on a daily basis. So I'll definitely make that connection. Maybe we can meet at my house. I've had some of these shows in my garden, so people get to see my garden, and Kevius hasn't visited yet. So we'll set up something over there.
Oh,
One day, one day.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
I would, Kevius, I'm going to ask about a fundraiser that Faz is putting together. It's a bike ride that people can sponsor. Faz, can you tell us about that?
yeah, we have a ride of awareness that we're planning for the end of August. Now that really a lot of our events have dried up with this, the new normal that's going on. Thought it was a great way to raise money to provide more programming for our athletes. But not only that, we have a new young lady who's paralyzed in the community. She just got paralyzed 3 days ago. She was paralyzed from a dirt bike accident. And we want to bring her in, and we want to get her equipment, and we want to show and open that on a very consistent basis. So I thought it would be an amazing opportunity to bring awareness to our mission and bring awareness to paralysis. She was paralyzed from the belly button down, T6 level, which means she will never walk again. And she just graduated high school at Pine Bush. And this is a life-altering traumatic experience. And she was an athlete, you know. And we have a lot of other amazing kids and stories that are overcoming a lot. And we want to give them more. Chris said that we increased our services to fitness. Yes. But there's also that whole social aspect, right? Most of our kids and our young adults don't have a lot of friends, right? Or I'm kind of like they're everything, right? We want to have social outings. We want to link them up. We want to do a lot more. So I thought this ride for awareness, where I would be driving but I enjoy my mountain biking, pushing my wheelchair. So it's going to be riding and pushing 100 miles in a week. And you can check us out on Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness on Facebook, or on Instagram at Ali Adaptive Sports _. We have a very active Instagram account. Just to stay updated as we're planning that.
Yeah, maybe Kevius, at some point we can show some of the photos, because I'm always inspired by the happiness and just the activity that Faz is able to get going with people. I have a question. How did you know so quickly that that young woman was paralyzed? And it's just amazing to me, because what a resource for a family, for someone going through a tragedy like this, to say, we can reach out to Faz. He cares. He's here for us. How did they know so quickly?
Yeah, Chris, with this situation, this is a kind of unique situation. Her father, whose name is Tom, who I've been on the every day since her injury, knew me before I was an amputee and knew what wheelchair basketball did for my life. And as I started my nonprofit, he's been out to all of our fundraising events. He's always encouraged me. He came into a gym about 15 years ago at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning to play floor hockey. Her father, I was in that gym, right? He was coming to play floor hockey. I was already drenched in sweat at 7 a.m. and I was playing wheelchair basketball. And he always tells me that from that moment, he knew I was going to be something special. He reached out to me. You know, we had just ran into each other at a grocery store within the last month, and he ended up I was buying coffee. He ended up wanting to buy my coffee for me and actually purchased my coffee for me. So he immediately knew how adaptive sports has transformed my life. As I said, he's been out to several of our events, so he knows how passionate I am about wanting to transform other people's lives and give them that same opportunity and open up that same community for them. So started right off with a text to me. Hey, Faz, my baby girl she made a mistake driving her mountain bike, and she's at Westchester Medical, and they're telling me she's never going to walk again. So that's how I found out for her. Her name is Jasmine, by the way. If you check she's on our Facebook. You know, you can follow her story over the as she's recovering. You know.
Wonderful. I just love that people can feel comfortable in communities knowing that your resource is available for them.
Yeah, you know, and it really is an amazing resource. So, you know, I didn't profile her a lot on our Oddly Adaptive Sports and Fitness Phase or our Instagram account yet. This has only been 4 days, but my personal Facebook, I put that out. I have several thousand friends around the country and world that are all adaptive sports and connected. I spent my life traveling. I made friends with all these people, coaches, women that, you know, just very prominent disabled people. And if you would see the thread of outcoming support and people wanting to talk, and all young women that have been in that similar situation. Because once you're one of us, you're very passionate about this stuff, Chris. You're one of us. We've been waiting for you. It's like this other world, and we've been waiting for you, and now the door is open, and we're here for you.
That's amazing. And I have a note about the military. The military seems like a natural collaborator with you. Do you because of injuries that lead to disabilities, do you have natural collaborations or even funding from our military to help support something like this?
Not as yet, but the Orange County Youth Bureau executive director, who also runs Think Differently, just put me in contact. So I'm actually going to be doing a something similar to this in August with our region's military board to make them aware of the services we provide and the opportunities that are available. You know, I'm hoping there's a couple disabled military young men and women around here that don't think adaptive sports is for them. You know, when we talk about the VA, you know I'm talking about winter basketball. You have to think that I've played against the top military players in the country. It's San Diego Wolfpack, and it's all a bunch of amputees, great young amputees that were all blown up in the same part of Afghanistan and then also Iraq. Double amputees. Their best player is Jorge Salazar. He's a double amputee. He just got back from playing professional wheelchair basketball in Spain. And now he's back in the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. So we want to kind of link this region's veteran up with that. I mean, to think that there's no veterans playing wheelchair sports around here, there's not really a hub for that. I think there's some athletes waiting to be discovered, Chris.
Absolutely, especially because depression and post-traumatic stress disorder can lead to a difficult life. If they have a light at the end of the tunnel, like your organization, I think there could be a lot of positive shifts. We're here at our 15-minute mark again, and Kevius, this is our 14th week in a row, and I think I've done every station identification. It's your turn.
For the folks just tuning in, this is Livelihood News. We are here every Friday, hosted by Executive Director Chris Hewitt of the Hudson Valley Current, where we have conversations with community members on things that interest us and resources that are accessible to you. And today we're joined by Faiz Ali of Ali Adaptive Fitness.
Close.
Sorry?
Close.
Please correct me.
Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness.
Sorry, my apologies. And
No problem.
We're in the middle of an amazing conversation. I've learned so much. I'm super excited. I'm kind of flustered and blushing, but it's okay. I'm just excited about the opportunities. And this time though, Chris, I'll pass it to you for our sponsors.
Wonderful. So last week, we came out with our July issue of Livelihood again. After 3 months of not publishing, because not only was nobody picking up newspapers, we had 100 copies of a newsletter we produced during COVID. 100 copies at Adams didn't move. Usually over 1,000 papers will move in a day. You know, that's how drastic it got. Every single one of our advertisers, except one, pulled out. You can't publish without support. And so there's hidden effects to COVID also. When our economy struggles, then we start to lose certain businesses because of structures that have been set up. Publishers rely on advertising dollars. And when every single advertiser can't afford it anymore, our local publications disappear. When our local publications disappear, we're not informed about what's happening in our communities. So it's been proven when a local paper goes out of business, there's less attendance at town board meetings, less attendance at fire department volunteerism. There's less participation in general. So this issue is amazing. It's a lot about post-COVID information, but also about the Black Lives Matter movement, about evolution, being aware of each other, engagement. This is one of my favorite issues. We feature people of color on every single page. As a publisher, that's one of my goals. And also through Livelihood News, we feature the voices of all people in our communities, and we strive to always include people of color, and especially Black-owned businesses, Black, Indigenous, people of color-owned businesses. So we have a wonderful writer who's been with us for a few months now, Desiree Lyle, and she writes about women entrepreneurship and the amazing women business owners in our community. We also talk about reimagining police forces to be peace forces, where they protect and serve with love and care for their community, with passion for people. We also talk about a pollinator each issue. This is about Feed HV. They help get excess food to people who need food. And Daddy Debrief talks about the joys of fatherhood and children growing up. Every month we have a piece in Spanish that we don't translate because we want to encourage people to learn Spanish. This is about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We feature a different goal every month, and you can find the translation on our website at livelihoodmagazine.org. We always have positive news because positive news makes us feel good, and there's more of it than the depressing news, actually. It's just not featured because it doesn't make money for the big corporations. Then we always talk about a form of capital. This month we talk about financial capital, which is funny because that's usually the only type of capital people think of when they think about capital. But it's only one of 8 or more types of capital. So every month we feature a different type of capital. So we remind each other how much value we have in our communities. It's all here all the time. Even with $0, we have so much value in our communities. Then On Villaging is a column about how to get back to our roots. And then we always feature a current member. This is about Future Fruits. We're actually collaborating with them right now on an edible landscape in Kingston that will teach people about the herbs and the recipes and the food that we're featuring here in our restaurant that opens in August. August 2nd, we're having a launch party. And our advertisers who are back on board and supporting us, Augustine Nursery, Mariners Harbor, Denizen Theater in New Paltz, Lee Reich, The Artifact in Poughkeepsie, Souk House in Ellenville. I think Faiz and I ate there. We love it there. Big supporter. And so we're in the process right now of getting more sponsors because as a nonprofit, what an ad in our paper does helps feed people in need every day. That's why we're opening our restaurant. This is a pay what you can and pay it forward restaurant. So every day there'll be sponsored meals that will be prepaid by all of our sponsors that used to just pay for an ad. Now they're going to be paying to feed people too. That was a long little break, but I'm Chris, this is Kevius, and we're here with Faiz Ali. Faiz, it's always good to talk to you, and I think that what we can dive into next is Kevius knows.
Yep, because I actually want to dive into Ali Adaptive Sports in fitness. How did that come about? Were you all in now I know Chris is a board member. How did your prior relationship build into collaborating on this project? So the first one is how did it come about? How did Chris become involved, and what's next for you guys?
Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much. It came about quite simply because of the impact and the transformation that adaptive sports had on my life. You're talking about, you introduced me as a 3-time national champion wheelchair basketball player. I never played on a basketball team until I sat in a wheelchair.
Really?
I never played in a full court. No. I never played on a high school basketball team, and now I'm the most decorated athlete coming out of my high school.
Yeah.
Because of the adaptive sports, because I had this new identity, because I had someone that believed that me, this amputee, that society, that I couldn't fit in with the able body anymore, could be somebody. I could shoot a ball, and he believed, like Coach Jerry Fleming, I have a lot of great mentors. Jerry Fleming believed that I could shoot a ball in a wheelchair. How it transformed. I've championships. I've been on national all-star teams. I've got a community around the world of people that support my mission because we know how important it is to have in these communities. And if they're playing wheelchair basketball on dirt streets in third world countries and they have equipment, know about it, we're going to have it in the Hudson Valley. And we're going to make it the best, and we're going to make it a platform where people can overcome these barriers and these obstacles and not feel alone and feel like we're united together. So leads me to our next question is how I got Mr. Hewitt involved, Chris. As those of you that just tuned in may not know, but I've been a friend of Chris for, I would say, almost 30 years, you know. I know Chris always believed in me. And before I was an amputee, and our connections, because our wives were best childhood friends, how woke Chris is. And for years, this is not anything new. I've known Chris for 30 years. So when I needed someone to, and with the amount of experience he had in business and nonprofit experience, he was doing this and doing other things of helping when other college kids are still partying. So I said, hey, if I can have an opportunity to get someone like that on the board with me, but not only did he want to be on the board with us because he knows how it transformed my life, and he knows these athletes that I keep finding and recruiting. He didn't only want to be on the board, he wanted to be our board chair to help lead our board and help complement my leadership as being the leader of the Paralympic movement in our community. So that's how I got it. Those are those two transitions there.
And Chris, can you speak to your involvement and what was important in you to become a board member, and exactly what did you see in Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness that made you say, hey, yeah, I want to be a board member and this is important for me?
Well, like Faiz said, I've always believed in him, and that's partly because of reciprocity. And you and I know, Kevius, with economics, reciprocity is everything. It's not because I believed in him, it's partly because he believed in me. And to start publishing, like he said, when I was in college, I started self-publishing when I was 20 years old. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and my sister had our publication picked up and was distributed in 22 states across America, every province in Canada. I was a young, passionate college student, and this was my friend. And so we would believe in each other because of how we would brainstorm and go into the basement and jam on the drums and guitar and like let life evolve into what it would become as adults. And we knew this would happen, Faiz. We knew success would be on its way. And that, I always tell young people that if you're feeling desperate or broke or sad, remember who you're going to be when you're 50. Because that's who you are today. And so you're on your path to being that successful 50-year-old, you know? And we still have time to hit 50, Faiz, so we got a lot of good things to still accomplish. And, you know, I think I love helping people. I've been told sometimes I'm generous to a fault because I will give away everything I own to help other people. I'm comfortable. I can live in the woods, but I also am talented, so I know I can get a job. So I'm never feeling afraid. I'm never feeling desperate. So I always feel I have enough to share. And so when Faiz was launching this, I said, if you need anything, let me know. So early on, he would call and say, how do you start a business? You know, example, you know, and I would say, let's fill out form 1023EZ, you know, and then introduce you to my lawyer friend. And then from that, a new relationship evolves. And now Faiz is getting sponsors and donations from people through those connections that our community creates, you know, because people don't just support anything. People support beautiful things. People support things that make them feel good. And I love teaching people about how to raise money because the first 3 words of fundraising is fun. Did I say words? First 3 letters of fundraising is fun. So I always try to make fundraising fun, and I love asking people for money because I know when they give $100, I put that $100 right toward the kids, in your case, Faiz, or in our case, the programs. And I will pay myself when I can. That's how I've always lived. And that's the risk you're taking right now, Faiz. You're going into that leap of faith, and I know you will succeed because you've always succeeded, you know. And Faiz, maybe that could be a good transition into the transition you're going through now, because when we lead an organization, we're a founder and we're a director, we always have to take the leap of faith to leave that thing that was so safe behind us. My previous job, I had to leave it behind. To start the current, I took a huge pay cut, more than half of a pay cut, you know, from what I used to earn. But I do that because of how much I can share with my community, and I know pay comes later. You know, I get paid from these talks, from my relationships, from my friends. And I get paid from the joy, like the meeting we had yesterday, Kevius, for helping Dara Lori help create a new health box. She wants to know how to start a business. So Kevius and I gave her some advice, get her on that next path toward her success. And then someone called me yesterday from Houston and New York City. They're starting a project called bolanle.org. It's a Nigerian word that says, I think it's the economy starts at home, or, you know, love and the economy start at home. And it's a platform that will help raise money for BIPOC owned businesses, Black, Indigenous, people of color. And if you want to put $20 toward a good cause, you could put it toward Bolanle, and they'll help you get that money invested properly in the Black community. So it's just inspirational for me to share knowledge. They taught me a lot yesterday, and I taught them things too. So for me, it's reciprocity. It's the push and pull of life. And we're all magnets. We're powerful magnets that are always attracting and repelling. So that brings me to a 15-minute mark. And so if you're just joining us, I'm Chris Hewitt. I'm the director of the Hudson Valley Current. You're here with us on Livelihood News. It's our weekly program that comes on at 5 o'clock on Facebook Live. And we always cover how to keep money local, how to strengthen our main streets, and how to share the abundance that's all around us. I'm here with my co-host Kevius Avery. This is our 14th show in a row. And our guest today is Faiz Ali, the director of Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness. Oh, good. Here's his Instagram. I love looking at these images. And since I just spoke so much, Faiz, maybe you can talk us through some of these images.
Oh, great. Let's start off with the picture of the NBA player there. That's Nate Robinson. And but why I did that post, because that was going back in 2008. And if you read the post and you go on our Instagram, you'll read why. But what it says is that it was 2008, and I was told that amputees don't play wheelchair sports or don't use wheelchairs. Next thing I know, it's a year later, I'm sponsored, I'm flying around the country, and I'm hanging out with players like Nate Robinson. The awareness in this community was non-existent. You know, I kind of used his popularity to bring awareness to the fact that I was in this community and told after my amputation that amputees don't use wheelchairs, but in reality, amputees and fit amputees around the world use wheelchairs for sports and in their own home, in their everyday life, and also out in the community. You know, a lot of guys on the Paralympic wheelchair basketball team, who, by the way, are the reigning gold medalists, and they're super fit and they're below knee amputees like me, and they use wheelchairs in their everyday life and prosthesis. So that's one of the posts that comes to mind. And you'll see a lot of great videos of some forehand tennis training, working on a lot of forehand tennis training and backhands. And you know, what also comes to mind is this older gentleman here. That's Peter Schuyler, one of my wheelchair basketball mentors. He's from Walden, New York. He's paralyzed because a 16-year-old hit him head on. He's a retired FDNY firefighter, and he was moving from Walden to Rehoboth and wanted to donate his sports wheelchair to you. Something amazing about being disabled, those statuses and those color things kind of fade away. We're all together. We've all experienced this traumatic event, or we've been born with these disabilities. So is it there? Yes, but I haven't seen it in that community. Peter and I drove to New York City together my first 3 years of being a rookie and traveled the country. So that was a great, you know. What also comes to mind, can I share one more thing? Is the young man that I'm doing, you see that I'm doing fitness with on the ground there. He's my youngest athlete, our youngest athlete. His name is Rylan. He's in the Valley Central School District in Orange County. He has spina bifida. and he is amazing. And remember, we're coming from a world where they wanted his parents to abort him, right? And this kid is amazing, okay? To bring a lot of awareness, all of our kids, every athlete that you see on our page had so many surgeries in your life, you won't even imagine. Rylan today is sitting in Westchester Medical, getting a surgery that allows him to be able to urinate through the side, through his penis. It's a common surgery that all of our spina bifida athletes have when they get to a certain amount of age so that they can void their urine without having to catheterize their penis. I actually have a 6:15 call with his parents to get updated on his condition today. He unfortunately is going to be out of wheelchair sports for the next month. However, it doesn't mean he's out of our platform and out of our reaches to inspire and motivate him to know that we love him. So we look forward to doing that. I think those are about 3 things on my Instagram that are really resonating close to my heart.
Beautiful. You said that we find that you're all in this together. Divisions of race and creed and even belief can break down when you go through a traumatic experience together. What I'm calling this experience we're having right now in America is the Great Awakening, whereas some people have called it the next civil war or something crazy and divisive. Again, we're always being divided, right? How do we come together through trauma? How do we address generational trauma? How do we be there for each other? That's what I'm living for. So I don't want to go too far into that distraction because I think we will continue to live this way to be there for each other. And I know Kevius has a question for you right now.
Yeah, great. Well, Chris, sorry. You want to say something? Oh, no, okay. Chris, what you were touching on is this idea of what we're seeing now, this idea of resilience. And that's what I love about your 2 organizations is that you approach resilience from the view of diversity and inclusion, teamwork, acknowledging that it takes, more than just one person to uplift everyone, and the idea of perseverance. And what I like about your 2 organizations is you're approaching ability from 2 different angles, right? So Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness, you're approaching it from the physical or cognitive ability. How do we create ability from there? And then Chris, you're approaching it from the financial aspect of in today's economy, and that's my focus also. In today's economy, there are folks who aren't able to participate in the economy as they should be, or as many folks are, which are the marginalized people. So I would like for you all to speak on what your organization's doing, whether that's a program, whether that's an upcoming program to reach out to marginalized folks or underrepresented folks and make them able. So whether that's through teamwork, perseverance, or resilience. How are we doing that? And I'll start with Faiz and Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness.
All right. Okay. How are we addressing it? We have a lot of new programs that we're coming up, and I'm brainstorming. One of them is this an activity we're doing tomorrow morning. It's actually an inclusion walk, run, push. So I have a few of our athletes and a few able-bodied athletes, all of the same ethnicity. And we're all going to be pushing this beautiful Davidge Park together. They're going to be jogging. We're going to be pushing. We're going to be stretching out together. I'm going to address them. And it's going to be very empowering. So we look to do a lot more inclusion activities with able bodies. We call you guys able bodies. I'm sorry, you guys probably have never heard that term, and it's something in the disabled community, in the disabled sports community, we call you able bodies or ABs. But linking up able-bodied youth with physically disabled youth empowers individuals, especially through doing a physical activity together. I think both sides could be motivated. I think it's a good situation. So I'm looking forward to a lot of these social inclusion activities. One part of the push that we're doing tomorrow, there's this hill, and this hill is very challenging, and it's going to be very amazing to see able-bodied young men come up behind the wheelchair to help push them up and encourage them. So we look to do that. It's going to be exciting.
Beautiful. I love that. I hope to be there. What I think we're doing at the current, and Faiz is a current member, we're hoping to get the organization involved in the current to help keep money local. And we've talked a little bit about what we were calling the current community protection plan. We just renamed it this week to the current resilience program. Because, you know, 5 years ago, when I wrote this grant called the Economic Resilience Plan, nobody was talking about resilience. And then we got this big grant, and then soon everyone was talking about resilience, which is part of the process of the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times, the collective consciousness. We're all thinking similarly. So resilience came to Kingston before COVID hit, which meant we were able to spring together as 30 or more nonprofits to address real insecurities, some food security issues. You know, the Hudson Valley Current provided over 1,200 meals to the county's effort. We're still in the process of helping to feed people. So what I think we've discovered is we have to open our own store, because over 7 years of the current flowing, 700,000 currents have been exchanged. So it works. We know it works. Every single one of the currents that have been exchanged is still here in the mid-Hudson Valley, unlike the dollar, which leaves every single day. The first current that was exchanged in 2013, we can find it. We know what town it's in. That's how amazing the system is. Because it's digital, we could see it move through our communities. But then during COVID, well, actually in October, we released physical bills, but during COVID, we got a better version of a high security bill. And so when the bills come into circulation, we lose track of how they move through our communities. So this little QR code will let us see if it's in Middletown or if it's in Kingston, and when it came to Kingston from Middletown. So just like when it's digital, we could see exactly how currents move, but this allows us to see how the bills affect our community too. So a way that we're going to address food insecurity will be for at least the first month, we'll give free currents back to people with every purchase in our cafe. And then right through the hall here, we've created a community space that's like a living room, a comfortable lounge that people can rent from us with tables for meetings. Oh, that's where Kevius is. He's on that side. Hey, Kevius! He's right through the hallway. So, and show everyone our products. We're setting up our shelves so that people can come and spend 100% currents with us to keep all that money local. And people will get currents in their change or even free with their purchases to get that currency flowing here in our community. We'll have rewards and incentive programs constantly to get that cash flowing. Because even though our digital app is beautiful and amazing, people are confused about what money is, even when it's dollars. We don't know what it is. We know it works. So that's our biggest challenge. That's our biggest educational task, is to teach people what money is and how it works. And so when we could do that and people start to get it, they're like, oh, you mean if I exchange with you and you exchange with me, we could keep it here longer, you know? And so it's very basic things we're teaching, and it's just a really fun project. It's the hardest job I ever had and the best job I ever had. So I am resilient, and I think our community is resilient. We sprang right back up on our feet like a week after COVID. It was scary for a little while, you know, but we know we have our own currency. And throughout history, anytime a community currency exists, that economy is stabilized for thousands of years. The first country to get out of the Great Depression was Switzerland, because they started the VIR, the W-I-R, the VIR Bank. Started in 1934 in Switzerland, and that helped them get right out of the Depression. It still exists. So they must be doing something right. And you both know, I could talk about this for hours. I love local currency. I love local economy. I'm not an economist. I'm a publisher. I like to educate people. I like to talk to people. But what I discovered is money is flow. Money is circulation. Money is exchange. So food is currency, you know? Our relationship is currency. Our talents are currency. So, you know, like I said, I could keep talking, but we're almost at 6.
Great, Chris.
And for the last few minutes, I'll actually turn the floor to you, Faiz, and I'll leave it with,
Can I have 10 more seconds? 10 more seconds. I wanted to mention the Community Resilience Program, because like the Paycheck Protection Program at the federal level, this is a local protection program. that's going to get currents to people like nonprofits or food-oriented businesses that need that little boost right now. So that comes out on August 1st. You can find more info at hudsonvalleycurrent.org.
Thank you, Chris. And Faz, I'll leave the last few minutes to you because what Chris talked about was making an economy that's sustainable, right? And our whole mission is educated, and it's like, well, who are we trying to educate? You know, of course, we're living for the present, but it's so that, you know, future generations can build on top of us. And I want to know, as your organization that focuses on disability awareness, is what would you like our next generation to pick up on? You know, what's that piece of knowledge that you really hope your organization could pass so that future organizations and future generations can build on top of? That we help.
That's great. That's great. You know, I think it starts off in the school districts. I think it starts off with the physical education teachers, the administrators, making them aware that there's two different genres of adaptive sports and that they may have a future Paralympian. And if we're not exposing them at a young age and letting them know and their family know those opportunities, you know, I think it starts off there. I do a lot of school outreach, obviously, in the past, over the past few years. And I've recruited 2 athletes, one from a camp and one from a school, both ambulatory, but with gait deviations and both cerebral palsy. They didn't know that they were eligible for adaptive sports, but were pushed towards Special Olympic active sports because of their gait deviations, right? Now they're being pushed, and of course, and it's just, but I love all kids and I love Special Olympics, so I have nothing against Special Olympic kids or cognitively challenged kids, but we have to have awareness for the 2 different genres so that our families and our athletes and our kids have the same platform that Special Olympics do. So, you know, I think it starts there. You know, we get all the physical education teachers and athletic teachers knowing, doctors, physicians, right? A lot of doctors and physicians I went to up in Orange County that didn't ask me, hey, you ever play wheelchair sports? You got your leg amputated. You're still a young guy. You can still go to college for free, right? We need them to know about it. They're seeing these spina bifida kids, these amputee kids, right? Remember, every single athlete that you'll see on our webpage or our social media has been recruited by us. They grew up in the Hudson Valley without a sports wheelchair, okay? They grew up going to Middletown School District and Valley Central School District, and it goes on. And they didn't know that there's a sport wheelchair and that they could unite with other kids with sport wheelchairs at camps, you know, and things like that. So I think that's where it starts. Doctors' offices, pediatricians, administrators of schools, head of athletic department directors, athletic directors. I think that's a good start. And I've had, and I could probably say that Middletown is on board, and I could probably say that Newburgh is aware also. So they're on the hunt because they know this guy named Faiz Ali that's on the hunt for new athletes and looking to transform people's lives. So they're with me and they're believers.
Beautiful. Well, an hour always flies with you, and I'm interested in donating because, as you know, our board is a give or get board. A give or a get board means that the board members give money or they help you get money. And I'd like to make my board donation. Where should I go to make that?
Thank you very much, Chris, and to the Hudson Valley Current. You can go directly to our website, which is www.aliadaptive.com. That's www.aliadaptive.com.
Beautiful.
Oh, great. That's it.
Great. I'll be up there tonight making my donation. And if you'd like to support Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness, it's an amazing program doing wonderful things for people. Today I've been with Kevius Avery, my co-host. I'm Chris Hewitt with the Hudson Valley Current and Livelihood News. And our guest today has been Faiz Ali with Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness. This has been amazing. Hopefully we can have you back again, Faiz.
Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen. Wishing you all the best in Kingston with the new restaurant and with the Current. I think you're doing amazing things, and I'm looking forward to watching what the future has to bring.
Thanks,
Thank
Faiz.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for an amazing conversation.
Thank you. Great meeting you.
You as well. Thank you.
I'll see you in Kingston.
Yeah, see you in Kingston. Let's partner.
Yes, sir.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.